The 23rd of September, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
Techila, initially, before I gave it to you. Before I gave it to you, I intended to make an acquisition in it for myself. So why could that not be the possible case that the Mishnah is coming to exclude when it says lo amar klum? We don't accept his words. We don't accept that what he said that. Okay? We took the last 10 minutes to try to explain your question, Lou.
Thank you. I heard you getting to my question, so I decided to get up.
Okay, so the first thing I should do is see if somebody has a comment on what Rashi explains over here. Maybe somebody has a comment and say, well, what is Rashi doing over here? Why is he saying that? It's not true. Let me just see. On these words, Miktani Seifa. Maybe I have a comment over here. Miktani Seifa. Right? And then the Gemora says, Midiktani Sefer, it says in the Sefer, Ani Zechisa Ba Tchila. The Gemora asked, Tchila B'Sefer Lamali. Why does the Mishnah need to say that when he says Ani Zechisi Ba, it says Tchila? Pshita, says the Gemora, that Afogav the Loyamar Tchila, even if the Mishnah would not have recorded that he said Tchila Ka'amar. Of course, we understand that is his intention, and that's what the Mishnah means to communicate to us. And on that, the Mishnah says Lo Mar Klum, obviously. Okay. Oh, let's see over here. Rashi. Shekach misfarshim devorav shel hamagbia. These are the way we are going to explain the words of the one who's picking it up, the pedestrian. Ani zachisi bo tchila, al pi Rab Nachman. Sharei hu eino tzorik liton, dafka she'agbia es ha-metzia mitchila avor atzmo. K'fi shesavar ula, ela dai b'kach shetoen shezoka bo acher mikein. Kodem shemosru l'rochev. Oh, there's your answer. Think about it. According to Rav Nachman says that as long as the guy made a decision that he's going to make that he wants to make an acquisition in it before he actually gives it to the guy, according to Rav Nachman, that kinyan would work. But Ula is saying more than that. Ula is saying no. He's got to have that in mind at the time that he picks it up. Why? Because according to Rav Nachman, at the time that he picked it up, if he's going to end up giving it to him, we're assuming that he had in mind to pick it up and make a kinyan for the rider at that time that he picked it up. And then he's changing his mind and saying, oh, no, and now he's telling you, before I gave it to you, I decided to make a kinyan in it for myself. Is that going to work? Well, according to Rav Nachman, it'll work. Yeah, it'll work. And that's exactly where Ula is coming to argue with Rav Nachman. He's coming to say that no, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't even work at all. The Mishnah doesn't need to say lo amar klum on that case. That doesn't work. It's not because we don't believe him. It's because it doesn't work. Why? Because according to Ula, if he would pick it up, techila, meaning techila, in order to make a kinyan for the rider at the time that he picked it up, that's the end of the story. It'll work according to Ula. And now, of course, he's not. It's not a matter of not accepting his words. If he says, "But I had intention to acquire it for myself before I gave it to you," no, that doesn't. He can't do that at all, according to Ula. Oh, the writers already acquired it. That was the whole machlokes between Ula and Reb Nachman, and that's why Rashi needs to make that point that he's making over there in Dibra Maskil Midiktani Seifa. The two choices that he's presenting.
So
if
see.
You learn that, what?
I'm just trying to see if I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's two opinions. One opinion says that when he picks it up and he does not have intention to acquire it, he doesn't acquire it. And then when he changes his mind and says, I want to acquire it, it's not effective. The other opinion says it is effective. Is that accurate?
Right. That's the machlokes between Reb Nachman and Ula. Because Reb Nachman said that in the first case, in the Reisha, where he never gave it to the rider, he never gave it to the rider to begin with. He just picked it up. Notla, it says, and then it says, "Ani zechisi bo." I had in mind to acquire it for myself, and it doesn't say in the Reisha tchila. And the Reisha doesn't say tchila. So Reb Nachman, and it says over there zakabo, that the pedestrian is capable of making an acquisition over there. He has acquired it. He has acquired it. It's his. So remember, Reb Nachman wanted to say that case was that when he picked it up, he initially the pedestrian picked it up in order to give it to the rider, and according to Reb Nachman. According to Reb Nachman, that will not constitute an acquisition because he's not capable of doing that. Because Reb Nachman says that the Rabbanan hold that that's not a migu that we hold of. Since he could have theoretically picked it up for himself to acquire it, he can also pick it up to have somebody else acquire it. No, the Rabbanan say it won't work. The only way it'll work, according to Rabbanan, is if he has a chelik in the item that he has intention to pick it up as well for himself. Then he could also acquire it for somebody else too, that he has a share in that thing that he's picking up, like the case of the talus. Each two people are picking it up from the other side, and we have to explain that the kinyan hagbah doesn't work unless you pick up the entire talus yourself. So it's got to be that each one of them picked it up for themselves and also for the other one to make an acquisition on his side of the talus, which he's not picking up. But Rav Nachman says the Rabbanan hold not like that. I'm sorry. It's a complicated case. Everybody agrees to that'll work. The machlokes between Rav Nachman and Ula is, will it work if a Jew number one wants to pick it up solely to give it to Jew number two, that he should make an acquisition? Rav Nachman says, the Rabbanan say, it doesn't work. You can't do it. And Ula says it could work. So therefore, Ula has to say that the Reisha of our Mishnah says that when the pedestrian initially picks it up, when he says ani zechisibo in the Reisha, it means, like the Gemora says, ani zechisibo tchila. At the time that I picked it up, initially, I intended to pick it up for myself. And that's the only reason why it belongs to him. Because if he picked it up with intention for the other person, the writer, to acquire it, so according to Ula, that'll work. And therefore, the Mishnah, he won't be able to change his mind now and acquire it for himself. Okay. Okay, so that's very good. Okay, so now we'll go weiter. Ve'idach, in the Gemora. Ve'idach, where is Ve'idach?
10A1, last line on the page.
Okay. Roy, would you like to read, please?
The Gemora asks, Ve'idach, and how does the other one, that's Rav Nachman, account for the apparently unnecessary word first?
Ooh, good question.
Okay, the Gemara answers. Tana Sefer. Rav Nachman will explain that the Mishnah states the word first in the latter case, the latter clause. In the later clause, the galui, to reveal the meaning of the first clause. Sefer de Amar Tehila. The latter clause concerns a case where the pedestrian says first, as part of his claim. Risha Dalal Omar Tehila, which indicates that the first clause concerns a case where he did not say first.
Okay.
Rather, he claims he means to acquire the find for himself now.
Okay. So in other words, according to Rav Nachman says, why did it say ani zechisibo techila in the Sefer? It's pshita that's what he meant. On that, Rav Nachman says that the true. I agree. It's pshita. He didn't need to say it for the Sefer. He said it in order to reveal to us that in the Reisha where it doesn't say it, that we should understand that it was not said. That was not the case of the Reisha. He didn't pick it up initially to acquire it for himself, and that's essentially the view of Rav Nachman and his whole proof. That what did he do when he initially picked it up? He initially intended to pick it up righter, and even though he initially intended to pick it up for the rider, he can change his mind. It doesn't have any. It does not make a kinyan because it doesn't work. So therefore, the item remains hefker, and therefore, when he changes his mind and he decides that he wants to acquire it for himself, he could do so. And that's why the Mishnah in the Reisha it says zochabo that the pedestrian will acquire the item. Because remember, the case of the Reisha is that the pedestrian never gave it to the rider. Just says notla, he picked it up, it says notla, and then what does it say? The Omar, and he said, Nizachisibo. I have acquired it. And Reb Nachman says that means right now. He means to say that he intended to make an acquisition on it right now with the kinyan that he made right now, whatever kinyan it was that he made right now, and it works. Okay.
Oh, now I'm confused.
Yeah.
If we're saying in the Resha, he did not initially intend to acquire it, but in the Seifa, he did initially intend to acquire it. And we said before, everybody agrees that in the Resha, if he initially intended to acquire it, he did acquire it. Then why does the Mishnah say he doesn't acquire it?
Because Reb Nachman learns that the Reish is talking about a case where he initially intended to acquire it for the rider.
Right, but I'm talking about the Seifa now. We're saying the Seifa, he initially intended to acquire it for himself.
Right.
So why doesn't he acquire it? We just said everybody agrees that in that case he acquires it.
Oh, because we don't, with lo amar klum, the Mishnah says. We don't accept his words. We don't accept his words that he actually intended to acquire it when he initially picked it up.
Okay, so the only thing the word initially is teaching us is that in the Resha, he didn't initially intend to acquire it. But it's not teaching us that in the Seifa, he initially intended to acquire it. It's not teaching.
Right. Both Reb Nachman and Ula agree to the Gemora's question that says, why does it say Tchila Dafka in the Seifa? Need it to be said in the Seifa. He obviously means that he acquired it. He intended to acquire it before he gave it to the guy.
So according to Rashi,
that's obvious.
So according to Rashi, there is an opinion that when he said Techila, he did tell the truth. According to that opinion, he did acquire it, but that's not the opinion of the Gemora, of the Mishnah. Correct?
Just a matter. It's not a matter of telling the truth, is it?
No, when the Mishnah says lo amar klum.
Right. So the Mishnah is saying he did not acquire it, but
yeah, both
opinion that he did.
Which opinion says that?
That's what Rashi was telling us. Rashi said there's two opinions. One says that he changed his mind, and the other says he didn't change his mind.
We mean to say, if we would believe him, if we would accept his words, then according to Rav Nachman, even if he initially intended for the rider to acquire it, but thereafter, before he gave it to the rider, he intended to acquire it for himself, it would work if we would believe him. But we don't believe him. Rav Nachman agrees that we don't believe him. That's the Mishnah says lo amar klum. If the Mishnah says lo amar klum, both Ula and Rav Nachman got to agree to the Mishnah. It says lo amar klum. We don't accept his words. We're just explaining what were his words that he means to claim when he says ani zachisi bo tchila. They mean different words. They mean different things according to Rav Nachman and according to Ula. They mean different things.
Right. So according to Rav Nachman, when he said Techila, he meant to say that he initially, when he picked it up, intended to acquire it for himself.
No.
What does Rav Nachman say?
I'm understanding that Rav Nachman is saying that in the Seifa, even though he intended to acquire it for the rider, he thereafter changed his mind and before he gave it to the rider, he said, I want to acquire it for myself. Because according to Rav Nachman, that's the way Rav Nachman holds, that when he makes when he picks it up to acquire it for the rider, it doesn't work.
So according to Rav Nachman, what does techila mean?
So according to Rav Nachman, it would be sufficient that techila means before I gave it to the rider, I intended to make an acquisition in it for myself.
Okay. And Ula says techila means when I first picked it up?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is, yes. Yes, and yeah. Okay. It needs a bit of thinking about. But that's the bottom line. And that's based upon the way I'm learning that based upon the way that both Ula and Reb Nachman understand the Mishnah. I mean, understand the resh of the Mishnah. Because they disagree about how to what's happened in the resh of the Mishnah also.
Right.
So they're disagreeing about the facts of the resh, they're disagreeing about the facts of the sefer.
But they both agree that in the Resha, he did not intend to acquire it for himself when he first picked it up.
According to Ula says when he originally picked it up, he picked it up with the intention of making the acquisition for himself. That's what Ula originally answered Reb Nachman when he said, Masnisen de Amar Tchila.
All right, so according to Rav Ula, when it says in the Sefer Techila, and we said that means that in the Resha it was not Techila, how does Rav Ula deal with that statement that in the Resha it does not mean Techila?
So the Gemora is saying that since the Sefer doesn't really need to say Techila at all,
right?
Because it's obvious that that's what he means,
right?
Therefore, we take that Techila that it says in the Resha, and we say that the Mishnah is coming to teach us that in the case of the Resha, he actually did say and mean Techila. And the Techila that he meant was that when I initially picked it up, I intended to make an acquisition in it for myself.
All right, so what does Rav Nachman, how does Rav Nachman say that that's not true?
Oh, good question. Very good. So Rav Nachman is going to say, like Rashi explains, Techila, what does Techila mean according to Rav Nachman? Before I gave it to you, the rider, I intended to make an acquisition in it for myself. That's also called Techila. That would be a way to explain what the word Techila means. Before I gave it to you, Techila, I meant to make an acquisition in for myself, even though at the time that I picked it up, I intended to make an acquisition for you, the rider.
Okay, so the problem I have with that is the word Techila has to mean something. And according to the one who says Techila can mean later I changed my mind, Techila doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, Techila means before I gave it to you.
But there's no other choice. What's Techila telling us? It's got to be.
Oh, so that's the Gemora's question. What do you need it to say that for? And Reb Nachman says the reason we needed to say it is you're right. We don't need it really for the Sefer. It's obvious that he meant that much. He didn't mean that after I already gave it to you and it's not now in your hand, I decided that I really want to make a kinyan in it now. And the Gemora says, Lo Mar Klum. Oh, shkoyach. Very good. We needed the Mishnah to tell us that. Lo Mar Klum, right? We don't need the Mishnah to tell us that. So obviously, we don't need it to say Tchila for the case of the Sefer. Reb Nachman agrees that that's the Gemora's question. But Reb Nachman says, I got an answer for you on that. The reason it says Tchila in the Sefer is to be Magala that only in the Sefer he picked it up. He picked it up at that time to make a kinyan in it. But one second. Oh,
you see the problem?
Idak Tana Seifa Legluye Reisha. Okay, 1 second. We need to explain Reb Nachman now.
Right. That's my trouble.
Reb Nachman is saying we learn the Tana. Okay, we actually have to read the Rashi over here. Let's take a look at how Rashi explains it. Oh, we're out of time. Okay. So we gotta maybe Rashi is gonna illuminate our eyes over here. How does Reb Nachman actually explain this? I see that there is a difficulty over here with Reb Nachman explaining this.
Okay. So we'll start with the Rashis with the Idach next time.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care.
Very good session.
Okay, Lou, 4:00.
4:00, yes, Alan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, shkoyach.